Hello, world. This is Dr. Tamia Austin, and can you tell I'm super excited today? We have a special guest who's going to give us some pointers, especially as we enter Mother's Day week. We have a mother, a sickle cell trait warrior mother here who will be joining us. She's here with us.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Tamika Mosley, and I am the published author of a book called Sickle Cell Natural Healing, A Mother's Journey. I'm also a global speaker. I'm the project manager for Healing Blends Global. Healing Blends Global is a nutritional supplement company, and we focus on the holistic healing of a person by using plant medicine for various chronic conditions. I'm also an herbalist. I'm an activist for learntherisk.org. I'm a member of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. And of course, I am an advocate for sickle cell disease. And today I'm going to become an advocate for sickle cell trait.
Yay! Yay! So I'm just going to tell you to scoot over to your left so we can see your entire beautiful face. Okay, the other left. The other left. Okay, there we go. There we go. I this is not even a shameless plug. This is where it's at today, people. I ordered this book. I got it in 2 days, and there is some serious knowledge in here. So we will jump right in. So you are a trait warrior. When
Yes.
did you find out? How did you find out? Just please tell us your story as much as you want to tell, because we want people to get the book. So.
Okay. Okay. So I started this journey on this path, having all the passion that I have because I do have a son with sickle cell disease type SS. I have a daughter with AC trait, and I have a son with SC disease. And we found out when my husband and I went to genetics counseling over 14 years ago. I've always known I had AS trait, but well, my story goes back to being in the military. I would always get exhausted and just so extremely tired and out of breath. And every time we do PT, but ended up getting a honorable discharge because I had a stress fracture on my knee. But once I returned home, I received a letter from the military telling me I have this fatal blood disease. I need to go to the doctor ASAP. So I panicked. I'm like, what? So I went to the doctor, and I was 18, and he asked me one question. Do you ever have any pain, or are you ever hospitalized multiple times? And I said, no. He said, okay, you're just a carrier. You will never have any issues at all whatsoever. So I took that and I ran with that for the rest of my life. And that's what I believe. That's what we all believe, right? Because the doctors tell us that. And some 20 plus years later, I almost died having both my kids because of sickle cell trait. And before we got married, though, I've always known I had AS, but we went to a genetic specialist counselor. And she told me that I had AS trait, but I also had some traces of some type of thalassemia. I have no idea. I don't remember, but she told me, I'm surprised that you're not in a lot of pain. I'm surprised that you don't have more hospital visitations because the way the percentage that you have of the trait, it shows that, your blood can sickle. Maybe that's why I almost died twice having kids, but I've had 2 or 3 pain crises in my life, and that, in my adult life. But as a child, I would always hurt in my arms and my legs, minor pains, nothing to go to the hospital about, but I would always be achy in my joints, and my brother as well. We would always say that. I did have to go to the hospital one time as a child because it was hurting so bad. And of course, I just put it off on, I pulled a muscle or sprained a muscle. I worked out too hard, put it off like that. But so that's how I found out, is when I got out of the military. Other than that, I had no idea.
So when you say you always knew, was that because you were newborn screened as a baby?
Oh, I'm
How,
sorry. No. Because in the 70s, they were not screening.
right.
What I meant as a child, I did not know then, but I found out once I got out of the military. That's when I found out at 18 years old. So from that point on into my life, I just kind of look back and I say, oh, that's why I was hurting. Oh, that's why I almost died in the hospital. Because people think that you cannot have any issues, and that's not true. And if I could share something right quick, I posted the question on my Facebook page: how many people have the trait?
Hmm.
And do you have pain? And I just want to read a couple of comments from what they said. One person said, I know I have the trait and I have pain, arthritis, joint pain, sometimes it's severe, and extreme fatigue and anemia. Another person said, I have the trait and I've experienced severe pain in my back and I've been hospitalized, very severe anemia and fatigue. I have pains in my leg, cramps, doctors don't even know why. So you see, other people are out there suffering, but they have no idea that it is the
Related to
reason with the
trait.
trait. Yes.
Yes. That's the point. That's the point of Trait Warrior. The more time I spend on social media, the more I have this space that's now associated with sickle cell trait. I get calls, emails, text messages, posts on social media. Hey, now that I think about it, I even had a young lady who does have thalassemia, beta thalassemia, I believe, um, who just found out, and she's in her 40s. But
Wow.
that is explaining, and she's adventurous. She loves to run, deep sea dive, all of those things, and has had some severe adverse health effects associated, and did not know that it was related to the trait, and didn't have the physician support
Right.
to help discover it until she did. And once she found that doctor, they were able to delve deeper and test her and retest her,
Right.
and found out what level the genetic counseling, as you said, which is very important, um, and that genetic counseling was able to go deeper and show her what percentage of her blood was what amount of hemoglobin was in her blood, and
Mm-hmm.
so on. But this is so in just that one Facebook post, you've gotten multiple
There's
confirmations.
multiple.
What
Multiple.
if our doctors would just do this? Okay, let me just tell you. Carolyn Booz says she's watching for Ron, my brother in this field of sickle cell trait awareness. He says, hola. Allison Caldwell is watching. It looks like she's tagging a whole lot of folks. So, folks, please give us some thumbs ups and smiles, and thanks for being here. And certainly, as we continue to talk, if you have questions, because, like I said, this is a mother's journey. Tamika is here to tell us about her journey as a trait warrior mom of a child with disease. And, I reminded myself of a conference experience that I had. I was there as a sickle cell trait advocate and had done a presentation on my sickle cell trait research. And hey, Royalina, hello. A young lady that I had met some years prior, I said, I'm a loner here. This conference is all about sickle cell disease. And she said, yes, but sickle cell trait people are our army. She said, when I go to the doctor, I'm going to the doctor with somebody with trait. Maybe my
Mm-hmm.
sibling has trait, my parent has trait. So you
Yeah.
guys are just as much in the
Right.
conversation as we are, and I believe that. I took that as confirmation. So when I came upon you wrote an article
Mm-hmm.
that I saw talking about your trait. I said, you know what? She's not alone. There are other people that need to hear this, that are going through this same thing. I hear it. I read it all the time. So thank you so much for sharing. And ever since we booked you, you have been our number one trait warrior, right? So I can't thank you enough. So if you don't mind, I want people to buy the book. It's a very, very easy read, but you're a gifted herbalist,
Yes.
and you have done a lot of the research to help, because a lot of times, or at least it's widely believed, that there's people that deal with the crises of sickle cell disease, and the strokes, and the clotting, and all of the different things that happen with disease. But of course, on top of the fact that there's a large belief that people with trait have no issues, but in the event that there's a trait crisis, a lot of the herbs that you prescribe to are just as applicable.
Exactly. Exactly. My son suffered so many crises in the hospital every 2 months. started getting blood transfusions. The doctor said that my son may have to go on monthly transfusions because his body stopped producing red blood cells. And this was almost, 10 years ago, but I knew I was against that because monthly transfusions is not healthy. It could be fatal. It could damage your organs. That's just not the way to go. But Even Flow is an amazing product that my son has been taking, and he has not had a crisis in 8 years. And the same things I'm doing for my son that thousands of people out there are doing, taking the Even Flow. It's the same concept. People with the trait can do the same thing and not ever have any more issues. And I just want to say this one thing. Even Flow is going through a double-blind study right now in Kisumu, Kenya, at the Obama's Children's Hospital. So I'm just excited for that because of the millions of people in Africa. But yeah, and it's all about education, And I always tell people the doctors are only going to tell us what they learned in medical school. That's it.
Yeah.
It's kind of not their fault because they were taught a certain curriculum and they
Mhm.
look in the book and say, you have the trait. Oh, never have any issues. And that's just what happens. But now we have these platforms like you, myself, Caitlin Blends Global, for Ron, just all of these platforms to educate people because these people cannot continue to suffer and die. They don't have to die. There's like 300 million people in the world with trait. I mean, that's a lot of people. And we only hear about the pro athletes or,
Mhm.
people in the media. Had I died, and I'm going to tell you my story, nobody would have known. The guy in the back of the police car, he died. Nobody knows about him because they're not talking about it. But there's so many more
Right.
people that has issues that we don't hear about.
When you said that the doctors, they go to that book, and in medical school, the this has been told to me by numerous medical students,
Mm-hmm.
people in medical school, are recently completed. Sickle cell trait, or rather sickle cell disease, is covered in the equivalent of about a week's worth
Wow.
of genetics content. That's sickle cell disease.
Mm-hmm.
Sickle cell trait receives the equivalent of about 5 minutes of an entire medical school curriculum. 5 minutes. So,
Mm-hmm.
parents, you have to ask, do not doubt yourself. Ask questions.
Yes.
You ask your physician questions. You have to do your own research. It's just like school. I read somewhere that if a child is only educated at school, that child is undereducated.
Right.
So,
Most definitely.
parents, you're not just, when your child's education is not just what's happening in the four walls of the school. You're
Right.
educating them when you're on
Right.
vacation, when you're watching TV, when you're sitting at the dinner table. That's a part of that child's education. So, in the same way,
Yeah.
when you are parenting your child, your trait warrior, your disease warrior, you have to ask questions. And then there is such uniqueness there. We are all as different as snowflakes. So the amount of hemoglobin differs from patient to patient. Your experience differ from patient to patient. Your diet differs
Yeah.
from patient to patient. So your outcomes will be different. So this is a place where you can find out that you are not alone, but you certainly will also be empowered to take on
Right.
the challenge of ownership of your diagnosis and such. But please go ahead.
Okay, so, and I want to mention in medical school too, they only get maybe less than 20 hours of nutrition, which,
Oh,
is all about pushing medications. And
yes.
every time we think that we're going to treat a disease, a condition with, or treating the symptoms, let me say, we're never going to completely heal holistically. We have to
Mhm.
treat the root cause. So
Right.
that's why that's what the medical field does, and that's why we have to stand together and learn from each other so we can start getting better. But my story started. I have 3 kids. My first child, perfect pregnancy, no issues, no anything. I was so excited. I said, I want to do this again. So 4 months later, I
Wow.
tried it again. This time, I was in pain from the second month all the way until I delivered. Excruciating pain, level 10 pain. And they never knew why, where it came from. And I didn't know anything about hers back then, of course. So I was taking hydrocodone every day, just to wake up, just to get by, just to go to work, because I was in so much pain. And I told my doctor that uh, 27 weeks or whatever it is, baby's considered full term. We're taking the baby because I can't do this. So, like a month before I delivered, I had to go on bed rest because the pain was just so excruciating.
Wow.
Delivered the baby and went home. Okay, I think the screen is stuck. Are you still there?
I'm still
Oh,
here.
okay,
I'm still
okay.
here.
Delivered the baby. I went home, and then every time I lay down, I would have trouble breathing. You know, it's like I had to gasp for air. So I called my doctor. She said, Tamika, come back up here ASAP. You know, just in case there's blood clots going on. I came back in. They told me I had congested heart failure. I'm thinking, what? Congested heart failure? Okay, still not putting two and two together. And I had high blood pressure. So, you know, that went on and got over that. Okay, that was fine. She said, don't do this again because I don't know if you'll come out of this a third time. So we didn't listen. Did it a third time. Now, the third time, funny story, delivered the baby. The babies were always fine, but again, 9 months of horrible pain. Delivered the baby, came home. This time, a week later, I had a pain crisis in my right arm. And Discovery Studios was coming to my house the next day. We were doing a TV interview for Homemade Simple. So I told my husband, I said, I'm in so much pain. I can't do this interview tomorrow. Let's go to the hospital now and get some pain meds and then, you know, be released tomorrow. Went to the hospital, got the pain meds. The next day came. I said, okay, we got to go home because they're going to be there in 20 minutes. So please tell the doctor to let me go. He let me go. 15 minutes drive home. I got out of my car, walked up to my door, pain crises, both legs, both arms, sweating, couldn't breathe, in pain. I was like, oh my God. My mom opened the door. She had the baby in her hand. All these camera people coming in. She's looking at me about to pass out. She's saying to herself, what are you doing? Why did you leave the hospital? So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I did the quick interview, went right back to the hospital. 2 days later, I was in ICU. I had congested heart failure, fluid around the heart, fluid around the lungs. I had a lung infection. I had high blood pressure. I was on oxygen. I had blood transfusion. I was out of my mind. I couldn't remember how to work the TV. I couldn't remember how to use my phone to text. I was using the bathroom by myself. My mom was cleaning me up. The doctor would come in and ask me questions, and I couldn't answer. After 30 seconds, then I say something. And I remember this so clearly. I would tell him, I hear you talking to me. I'm not able to respond, get my thoughts together as quickly, and I don't know what's going on. My mom will put the phone to my ear. My husband's on the phone, and I can hear my mom say, Rodney, she's not talking. She's just staring straight in the ceiling.
Mm.
They even told my family my organs may shut down. You know, I remember being in ICU, and I kept dropping my head. And I heard the nurse tell my husband, keep her up. Don't let her go to sleep. And I dropped my head again. My husband, you know, shake me, wake, you know, lift my head up, drop it. It was the most craziest thing. And my husband's telling people, you know, she's okay. She's going to be okay. But he's working, taking care of 3 kids. And my sister-in-law came up and saw me. And she said, Rodney, Tamika's not okay. You got to stop telling people this. You need to call the church. You need to ask for prayers because she's not okay. And, you know, but God is all I can say. He brought me through this because he knew that I had some work to do. You know, I live every day to educate people on sickle cell and now sickle cell trait because people simply do not have to suffer.
And you didn't know this. At this time, you're not thinking that trait has anything to do with this.
Oh, I was out of my mind. I mean, by this time I did because I had a kidney doctor, a lung doctor, a regular doctor, the hematologist. The hematologist would come by every day and she would say, you know, I think it is related to the trait. So yeah, during this time, although I was just kind of out of my mind, I did know at that point.
I think this is important.
Time.
Okay. Nana Bryant says she stayed in the hospital a whole 40 weeks of her pregnancy.
Yes.
That's why she stopped with one and lost another one. But you know, this is why the trait warrior moment is here, so people,
Yeah.
you know, can have, you know, relate and understand they're not going through this alone. There are other people So okay, so fast forward, you get through the births, you somehow get yourself together. When did you start along the line of looking for natural medicine?
Okay, so I started you know, when you have kids, you completely just take you out of the equation. I wasn't even thinking
Yes.
about myself. My child, now he's in the hospital every 2 months. Uh, it was just the most craziest thing ever. The whole entire year we did this process. So it came down. I had to make a decision, right? Like you say, we're either going to go with what the doctors say or we're going to go out and research ourselves. It came down to hydroxyurea, which is a cancer medication, or it came down to Ezekiel 47:12 when God tells us the leaves are our medicine. So which one was I
Mm-hmm.
going to believe? I had to go with what God said.
Mm-hmm.
So after my son
Mm-hmm.
suffered the entire year, and looking back on what I went through as well, that's when I started researching things and just simply researching herbs to help the body naturally produce red blood cells. And at the end of the day, that is the issue. The body just does not produce enough red blood cells. It can't keep up. And I started this, started my son on chlorophyll, beetroot juice, nattokinase serapeptase, ginkgo biloba. And by the way, herbs are the same thing as food. You know, people talk about nutrition, and that's extremely important. Don't get me wrong. I will always
Mm-hmm.
promote eat healthy, but people need to understand that turmeric in a capsule, yeah, it's a supplement, but it's still food. Ginger, garlic in a capsule, it's still food. Even flow, although it's Chinese herbs, it's not our food, but people have been eating these Chinese herbs for centuries, more than
Mm-hmm.
5,000 years ago. So it's all still food. And 3 years went by, my son did not have a crisis, and that's when I was just excited. And that's at the time I wrote my book back in 2013 because I had to just educate people. And I was talking to people all over the world, and at that time is when I partnered with Healing Blends Global, and we just took this thing and just went all over the world with it because it's just too many people dying and suffering when they don't have to.
When they don't have to, and with the within the trade community, it is true that if you're sedentary or if you don't enter an exertional state or if
Mhm.
there's no activity that is a threat to your oxygen level or you don't mountain climb or go to
Yeah,
Colorado,
right.
then you probably will be just fine. But
Oh
people
yeah,
are not sitting down. People are active. People run. People,
right.
so that's why the athletes are, the focus of the As One Foundation and our mission because that's how our founder lost his brother, and they have been active all their lives. And Devar, the living twin, continues to be active. So we're not encouraging people to sit down, and just cross your legs and don't do anything.
Right.
We encourage people to hydrate. Hydration has been, it's major for
Mm-hmm.
anybody, sickle cell
Yes.
trait disease or not. Hydration is important, but taking the time to also realize, okay, you have trait, and if you access any one of these risk factors, then you will, demonstrate very similar outcomes as a person with disease. So when we're talking about these herbal medicines to help your son who had terrible crisis, who now has not had a crisis in 3 years, this is something worth taking a look at.
Yes.
I know
Today,
that.
today he hasn't had a crisis in 8 years, but I was
Oh
running you
my
through the
goodness.
story.
8 years. Allison says, great information, ladies. Thank you. My family loves even flow, chlorophyll, and natural herbs and supplements. Thank you so much, Allison. I do too. And I just believe in it. My mother-in-law is West Indian, and she's always telling me about her Circe bush or the living leaf. And I
Yes.
prefer to put some ginger and water and turmeric and
Oh
shake it
yeah.
with
Oh
honey
yeah. Yeah.
any day than to take something, that's. I know there's a popular drug now that's in being marketed towards sickle cell people that addresses oxidative stress. So, in other words, you'll see sometimes people living with sickle cell disease that have to wear the oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this medicine is claiming to address that, and it's getting some positive claims.
Mm-hmm.
But the understanding is this medicine is also basically a natural supplement that you can get from GNC, right?
Exactly. And I heard that now it costs thousands of dollars to get this from the doctor. It's ridiculous. It's L-glutamine, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
yeah.
So look, Get your research done, people. Buy Tamika's book, Sickle Cell Sickle
Healing.
Cell Natural Healing: A Mother's Journey. This is her story. Her son has sickle cell disease, and what'd you say, SS?
SS. And
SS. He had severe crises, and now he's crisis free, 8 years and counting. That's
yes.
a testimony. That's a testimony, and that's worth sharing. This book is an easy read. This is her account. Um, we just want to share the information. We want you to be armed with good information and things that you can try to help make your life better. Our mission at the As One Foundation is to educate and increase awareness about sickle cell trait, because not enough people know. There's hundreds of millions of people worldwide, but there's somewhere between 2.5 to 4 million people in the United States with sickle cell trait, and a lot of them don't even know it. So we want you to go find out. If you are a person of African, Asian, Indian, Latin, Caribbean, Mediterranean, Greek, or Turkish descent, your skin does not have to be brown.
That's right.
You do not have to identify as African American or Black or Negro or any of those to have sickle cell trait. You
Correct.
can find out with the finger prick. And we do offer free testing in the Houston area. This is our home base. This is our foundation area. This is where Devard and Devon went to school. So he's adopted this area as his second home, first being Nassau, Bahamas. So we have provided free testing and still do, but you can go to any lab, you can go to your doctor and request to be tested for sickle cell trait. And, Tamika's instance, there's also thalassemia. There's also Monroe, and the list goes on and on. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm told there's upwards of 30 different variations
Mhm.
of this blood disorder.
Yeah.
And it can be found out by a test, a blood draw. Find out your status, because if you have it, you did not catch it, you were born with it. And that means one or both of your parents passed it to you. And in that same way, you can pass it to your children. And there is an unbelievable amount of couples that neither of them knew of their trait status or even disease status until they had children. And
Mhm.
now they have children that are suffering because they didn't know. So there's no reason to not know anymore. And even if you do find out, you can get some help. You can take care of yourself by, of course, seeing your physician, but also exploring things such as what Tamika encourages us to do through the sickle cell natural healings. Did you want to direct anyone to your website? We will post the website in the comments. Did you want to share a website or how people can get in touch with you?
Sure. Yeah. They can get in touch with me at ssnaturalhealing.com. And if they want to read more on Even Flow, they can go to healingblendsglobal.com.
And we will put all of these websites and links. Please follow Tamika where?
Wow. I have so many social media platforms. Well, I'm
Well,
on.
give us the first three.
Okay. So I'm on Facebook, and that is Tamika Mosley and slash Sickle Cell Natural Healing. I'm on Twitter, and that's at Sickle Solution. So SICKLE Solution. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I post a lot of information there as well. And it's just LinkedIn, and it's under Tamika Mosley. And
And
don't forget.
certainly, okay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Before I go, I just wanted to also mention that people have to also understand and realize about diet and how certain things. And and I know we don't have that much time, but just want to mention a few things that we should stay away from, because a lot of things builds inflammation up in the body, and people don't know that dairy products is a huge, huge issue. And consuming a lot of dairy will build inflammation and mucus up in the body, and you can start having serious issues from that. I mean, even cancer. So we want to always put things in our body that is healthy, that's going to give it energy, and that's going to feed our body versus eating all the the bad things, which is so easy to do, and our gut health also, because people take antibiotics, right? Especially
Mm.
sickle cell disease people, but sickle cell trait, they take antibiotics as well. And when you do that, you rip all the good bacteria out of your gut, so you have no good gut health, and that compromises your immune system. So now, it's just so many things we have to look out for that can trigger all these things and make it worse. So just another few pointers to look out for, and D3 is a huge one in the African American community as well.
And what is a huge one in the African?
D3, vitamin
Oh,
D3.
vitamins. Okay, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
which is
yes.
not a vitamin, it's a hormone that our body actually makes. But in African Americans, because of the melanin in our skin, we do not get it from the sun. Enough that we need. A Caucasian can go in the sun for 15, 20 minutes and get 60, 70, 80,000 IUs. But
Hmm.
we can go in the sun and we won't get that much, and we're not getting it from the foods. And being deficient in D3 is linked to 17 different types of cancers and also heart disease. So that's another huge factor to factor in. We want to make sure that we're taking our D3 daily as well.
Thank you so much. This feeds me. This feeds me. And so I know. I mean, we got all the links posted there. Um, Thank you so much for sharing. We're not gonna like close it out right this second. So if you have a question, there's still time to get a question in. Um, we have um, we have some tips that the Aswan Foundation produces
Mhm.
at our website. You can download a tip. It's a parents guide. So go to aswanfoundation.org/SCT parents guide, SCT parents with an S guide. And this is just tips for you parents that are caregivers of children, active children, that play
Mhm.
sports, questions to ask your coaches, questions to ask your doctors, and just things that you can take with you to practice. Get Tamika's book, get involved. We have so many resources online. Sickle Cell
Mhm.
Trait Journal is a great group on Facebook that posts articles that are we can share with our physicians, because these are usually refereed articles that have been produced in referee journals, and that can add some credibility to your arguments. But this herbal solutions, it comes with some controversy, but it's food, people. It's
Yes.
food. It's food. And their water is water. So we promote that people, regardless of trait or disease, should consume at least half their body weight in ounces of water per day. And if you think about that, that's in order to not be dehydrated.
Mhm.
So we put water in our cars. We water our plants. We give our pets water. Why? To keep our cars from running hot, keep our plants
Yeah.
from dying, keep our pets from getting lethargic. Well, in order for a human to not be dehydrated, we have to consume half our body weight in ounces of water daily.
Right.
So if you're not doing that, you're dehydrated. And if you're dehydrated, that means your blood is not flowing, you're not getting oxygen in your blood fast enough. And if you have trait or disease, your blood is already compromised. So give it
Yeah.
the best chance by hydrating. This is not rocket science. And Tamika has done a lot of the work for us. A lot of the answers are right there. So let's heal ourselves. Let's make ourselves the best. And this is definitely feeding me. So her last three tips were D3 in this African American community,
Yes. Liquid chlorophyll, because
liquid chlorophyll.
chlorophyll helps increase oxygen. It also raises hemoglobin, and it also builds red blood cells and even flow as well. It consists of 11 herbs, enzymes, minerals, and vitamins. And again, it's going to keep the blood flowing. It's going to keep the oxygen raised, so people won't have to experience pain, go into these crises. Um, and
And
you know,
dairy.
dairy, yes, no
Minimize
dairy.
dairy, right?
Right, right. Yeah. Goat milk, almond milk. There's other options out there, but we have to understand the foods we're eating. It's not the same foods that we had in the early 1900s. Our crops are depleted. They're sprayed down with pesticides and herbicides and Roundup. The main ingredient in Roundup is linked to cancer. So we have to understand that the foods we're putting in our body is just really not what they used to be, and we're not getting those nutrients like we should. So supplements have become a game changer in today's society, unless you're buying completely everything organic. And a lot of people just can't afford to do that, you know?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, this has been edifying. I thank you so much to all of you that have listened, that asked your questions. This video will be here. You can continue to ask questions, and we will continue to answer. I can't thank you enough, Ms. Mosley, for being here and all that you're doing.
Thank
She
you.
is doing it. She
Thank
is doing
you.
it. Please follow her, like her. She is sharing information regularly. Please pick up her book. We have to support each other. This is important for all of us. So with that, please come again. Join us every Tuesday, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. This has been your Trait Warrior Moment. We'll see you next week.